Well, let's get things started on this program with a reversal, going back in time. As many parents know, when they try to tie their children's allowance to their study time, it's usually sometimes a 2 steps forward, 1 step back process. Hey, look, if you get your iPad time, that means that you have to do your work first. And thus, if you don't do it, you don't get an allowance. It's sometimes 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Well, the Cardinals found that out themselves with the independent study clause that we've been talking about all week. Yeah. That came out of absolutely nowhere because the whole conversation that began, I still have it on my desk, with this piece of paper, the treatise from the agent of Kyler Murray that was disseminated worldwide, but specifically at the folks of the Valley.
Put it in the Hall of Fame, right?
Right there. And I don't mean the Valley, the San Fernando Valley. I'm talking about the Valley of the Sun. Specifically saying Kyler wants to be your quarterback, and things aren't going very well with the Arizona Cardinals. You got to wonder when Kyler scrubbed his account, was that them saying, "Hey, I think that whole business with the Rams where you threw a 2-yard pick six and it looked pretty ugly. Maybe you should study more." And he's just like, "I'll show you all my photographs off of Instagram."
And that's how they knew he was spending a lot of time on there.
Man, who knows all of that? But finally, he gets the contract. He's generationally enriched. There's a ton of money that comes, and the conversation here is, does he deserve it? Because he hasn't won a playoff game, and he's only had 3 years in the league. And he's now getting paid more than Josh Allen, who damn well near made the Super Bowl last year if they could only have defended for 12 more seconds, and so on and so forth. Skipping over the fact there was an AFC Championship game and Joe Burrow was standing there. But neither here nor there. I think you all understand that it was all about him finally getting paid until what came out was an independent study clause where clearly the team felt it needed to place in black and white, codify, if you will, him doing the extra work that every other star quarterback in the NFL, we assume, just does, including him, before this stuff came out. Well, there was a big to-do on this program, other programs that Kyler Murray felt compelled to go out to a microphone and address himself, and we thought he did a very good job of that yesterday, don't you think?
Very much so.
Where he's essentially saying, hey, look, if you think I've gotten to this point in my career just winging it without a work ethic at my size and my shape, and he also threw in there the Oakland A's drafted me top 10 and I'm first overall in the NFL. Nobody's ever done that. If you think I've just been winging it, just surfing my way through all this, then I appreciate the compliment, but it's also very insulting.
Mm-hmm.
Well done.
Yeah, I mean.
And, message received clearly in the front office of the Arizona Cardinals, because lo and behold, right around dinner time yesterday, they took the clause out of the contract, ripped it up. See ya. After seeing the distraction it created, we removed the addendum from the contract. It was clearly perceived in ways that were never intended. Our confidence in Kyler Murray is as high as it's ever been, and nothing demonstrates our belief in his ability to lead this team more than the commitment reflected in this contract. It's like, yeah, do you see how much money we're paying him? Got it. But what's the ways in which it was intended? What are the ways in which it was intended?
That scared me.
Yeah, the audio executive is not assuming that somebody was going to rip a paper up into a microphone. But well done, TJ. That's what ended up. I don't know if they did rip it up or they, in this day and age, you just remove it from a PDF. I'm wondering. I bet you he had to sign another version of the contract.
Probably, right?
Yeah, we're going to send one over to you. Can you sign it again and send it back?
Because you can't take something out of something that's already been signed.
You know what? That's why there are lawyers. I'm not one of them. My brother sometimes is listening right now, going to work, driving to work. So maybe he wants to text in. I'm assuming he probably look. The bottom line is he's just got to win football games, and if rubber meets road this year, next year, at any point in time where he's not performing well, and we're all in the media talking about this sort of thing, and it does bother him, and at some point he will sit back and go, well, look, Michael Bidwell, the owner, who had to have been the one who either insisted it gets in there or was somebody who, when told about it, that it's in there, said, okay, put it in there. And somebody had to inform him, because I'm assuming he is not in meeting rooms. He is not strolling around in film rooms. He is not going around the practice field, locked in on every snap. Somebody had to tell him, hey, Kyler's study habits are not up to speed. And somebody had to tell him that. So this thing had to appear in this contract. It didn't just come out of thin air. And at some point down the road, rubber meets the road. Will this chafe at Kyler Murray? Will he not sign a second contract? I mean, this is all for down the road. And this is now what's going to be sitting out there forevermore. The famed independent study clause of the last week of July of 2022. Who will never forget that? We'll always remember it. Where we were when we first learned that Kyler Murray signed something in a contract that sounded like a contract, Suze, that you and I come up with for our kids at home. Honestly.
I was honestly thinking to myself,
yes,
not familiar with a kid who doesn't try hard at all and then gets A's, and you have to give the iPad back that you took away because the kid's not trying hard at all. Don't we have to wait and see what happens with Kyler with this contract before we worry about the next contract?
Well, it's going to be more of the first half of this season where this is coming home to roost, because there's no DeAndre Hopkins for the Arizona Cardinals. He's suspended for the first 6 games. And so the success of this team and potentially its viability as a playoff threat in the second half of the season is going to be born out of a lot of Kyler Murray shouldering the burden. With this as a backdrop, and clearly, if he comes out and he torches the place, it'll be, well, this pissed him off, or this lit a fire, or what have you. And if it doesn't, it'll be, what's going on with him in Arizona? And this will be a question for him, and it's not fair. And it really is. You're hearing from everybody. Well, whose fault is it? Well, somebody had to tell the owner that his study habits were not up to snuff, and somebody had to tell the lawyer of the Arizona Cardinals, come up with this. And then somebody had to inform the agent of Kyler Murray's that it's in there. And then Kyler Murray's agent had to inform Kyler Murray. And his response may have been, screw it, what do I care? I mean, there's $46 million. I'm going to turn this thing down over this when I do it anyway, or I think I can do it anyway, or it doesn't matter. I'll do it.
It was either stupid or brilliant. Somebody either lit a fire doing this surreptitiously.
I do believe that the line that was in the statement about they didn't intend it. They didn't intend it for it to be public, and they didn't intend it to embarrass him. And they intended it to actually put into the contract something that when they were going to put all of this money into escrow and cut this check significantly, they just wanted some sort of a backstop, some sort of a safety net, something in the language of the contract that can make the owner feel comfortable stroking that check.
Yeah, I mean, clearly there was a there. I mean, there was a reason why they did this.
It didn't just appear out of thin air.
You don't just write a clause like this if you're not concerned about it.